Hi, welcome back. This is Jelle from Growing Bonsai. Today I'm going to work on this big juniper. I'm going to bend the branch, going to clip some branches, and I'm going to show you how to use raffia. For bending big trunks we use raffia. Raffia is the bark of a tree. You take 3 or 4 strands together and you just tie them at the end of one side with a knot. You put them together in a little bundle and then you just connect the bundle by taking the end, wrapping it around and through one of the holes. That way you create a bunch of them. Before using the raffia, allow it to soak for half an hour to an hour so the raffia gets completely wet. Wet raffia is a little bit longer than dry raffia, so once you put the raffia on the branch and it dries, it tightens, which makes a stronger connection to the tree. This is a somewhat complex tree. As you can see, the roots up in the trunk, then the branch goes to the back, the branch comes back to the front, goes down, back again and up, and much of this green up here is all connected to this one branch. If you look carefully on top, you can see clearly there's 2 branches going into the back. The other half of the foliage is connected to the top branch, this one right over here. The first branch I showed, the bottom branch, also has some foliage lower down. This is the foliage I'm going to use later on when I'm styling the tree. So I'm going to clip off some of the foliage on top. This tuft of foliage is connected to the vertical branch. I'm going to remove this one. Now we have a much clearer view on everything else that's happening. Now what I would like is this straight branch to be curved, and I don't want it to be on top. I in fact want it to be on the other side of the trunk. So I'm going to split this trunk, wire it with raffia or wrap it with raffia, and then bend it down into the space in the middle of the tree. For splitting I use a special tool which is called a branch splitter. As you can see, this is dead. In front is all the foliage. So effectively I can split along this line, just following the dead part of the trail of the branch. Use a cutter knife to separate the last fibers and make sure it really has disconnected from the top part. Now we can start adding the raffia. Take the soaked raffia and start winding it around the trunk that you want to bend. Especially the start is difficult because you need to get it in between all the fibers, and it is important to get it around as far as possible to the place where you want to bend it. And I like to start by going back, so I make sure the connection between the living and the dead doesn't break out. Make sure that every loop gets tightened and that all the loops overlap with the previous one. This way you continue for the whole branch. When you're nearing the end of one strain of raffia and you're looking for a way to connect it, I normally like to take the new strain, open it a little bit, pass the old strain in between and twist them together slightly, and then just continue working until the new piece is completely connected to the old one. So you don't need a knot, just the tension in itself will eventually combine the two strands. Just make sure that every loop you twist once and these will come tightly connected. The work that we're doing now is typical early spring work, late winter. Before the plants really start growing. At this point the cambium is still quite inactive and therefore the bark is tightly connected to the central wood. After placing the raffia, we added thick copper wire to the branch. This will keep the branch in shape and will stop it from breaking in a single spot, hopefully leading to a more pleasant curve when we finally bend it down. Once the branch is bent, it of course needs to be kept in place, so we'll connect the wire at one end and we'll find a suitable spot in the back to connect the other end of the wire. Use two hands to bend, making sure you always support the parts that you are bending so you can feel when the core of the wood starts cracking. Don't worry about sounds of cracking, that's part of the bending process. You can see that with the first bend we already have maybe a 40-degree bend from the straight. It used to be there, it's now going there. I want the end to move all the way to the inside of the tree. We've given the branch a little bit of time to rest. That way the fibers in this branch have had time to stretch and settle. Now it is time to move the branch one step further. Disconnecting the pull wire, trying to get my hand in the back to pull the branch further. Of course, this work is easier if you can do it with someone else. Today, unfortunately, I'm alone, so I'll have to make it work this way. Again, pause between moves so the branch gets time to settle. In between bends, make sure that you check the foliage. It can easily get squished when you're putting a lot of force on the branch, so make sure it doesn't break in the process, because that would be a shame. Then the bend is successful, yet the foliage still dies. A little bit further and then I'm happy, and then I'll just leave the tree alone for the rest of the season to establish new sap lines and get used to the new position. As before, I disentangle the wire, get my hands in place, and I gently bend the branch a little bit further until it effectively sits at the position where I want it. All the foliage from the top is now gone. The branch that went and came here now dives down into the canopy. All this foliage later on will be removed because I don't need it for the final styling. The foliage here I will keep and use for the final styling. So this and this comes from the top branch. The foliage here and here comes from the bottom branch. That way I ensure that this whole structure stays intact. Sap flow in all the bark that is still alive stays alive, and I have lots of foliage to style without the complexity of having a big clump of foliage here stopping sunlight getting from there. Well, this was it for now. I would say thank you for watching. If you like my videos, subscribe. There's a little button down there, and keep growing bonsai. See you next time.